My mom, when I was growing up, used to say this thing. She used to say, no, 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 with a finger wag left and right when she would say it. And so one day, I don't know what she was doing, but out of nowhere, all of a sudden I heard myself go, no, no, no. And I turned around and I was like, who's talking? Like, who is that?
Somebody gonna cue me or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay. Okay, everyone, we are back with another episode of Let's Talk Off Camera, so let's get talking. Yeah. Guys, this is a big one today. I know I say that every week, but today we're going to be joined by three Albert. How many Emmys do you have, Albert?
None.
0. She has 3, okay? 3-time Emmy award-winning actor and author, Uzo Aduba. You know her from her roles in Mrs. America, In Treatment, and of course, as Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black. She currently stars in the film The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat on Hulu. You know, we go so far back because before Uzo Aduba was on our show, her sister, Cheech, was on our show, Chi-Chi.
I remember.
Yes. So we'll get into that. Uzo has a new memoir, and it is a must-read. It's called The Road is Good, How a Mother's Strength Became a Daughter's Purpose. Jan, how good is this book?
It's a must-read.
It's
really
a must-read.
is.
But you know what I didn't do? I'm going to now purchase the audiobook
It's great.
because you said,
I listened to the audiobook. It's excellent. First of all, she does like she impersonates her family members, which is so fun
the
to
Nigerian
listen to.
accent.
Yeah, it's
She's
amazing.
so good at it, right?
And she sings a little bit. I guess she
Yeah.
wrote a song on her first day of being in New York City and she sings it. Her voice is unbelievable.
Yeah, of course. She's good at
So,
everything. You know,
yeah.
she's good at everything.
Yeah.
Like she's a figure skater. She can play sports. Not that figure skating is not a sport. Calm down, everyone. But she's just like good at everything.
Well, the parents were so good at introducing them to everything. Which is so great.
Right. Before we check in with Uzo, because I don't think she's on yet, let me check in with my long-suffering partners in crime, Jan Albert. What did you do this weekend?
Well, you had your
Oh, yeah. This ex-intern of Live from 2007, this guy, Mark Parker, who was one of the best interns that was ever there when I worked there. He has this podcast now called Release Date Rewind, where he does like anniversaries of movies and he brings people that were involved with it. So he reached out to me because I worked on Teaching Mrs. Tingle with Kevin Williamson. He said, it's its 25th anniversary. Will you come on to talk about it? We'll probably talk about Dawson's Creek too, whatever. It's such a great podcast.
Wait, so Albert is guesting on other people's?
Someone's podcast.
He's cheating on us.
Anyway,
Did you give our podcast a plug while you were at it?
He shouted out you, and he talked about how amazing you were when he worked there.
Really?
He also said like some story about how he at one point was going to dog sit Chewy, which I thought was wild.
Okay.
And then he said, Jan, what did he say about you?
He was saying I was the skinniest pregnant person he remembers, that I was walking around
Which
in
is
heels.
true. We all agree with that.
Listen, I'm sure he was the best intern
He was
ever.
incredible.
I don't remember. Do you have this? I don't remember anyone. Like he's send me the picture. He sends me the picture. No recollection of
So
anyone.
funny.
High school, college, no one.
First of all, I have, I have that facial blindness, so I've got that going for me. So I don't remember people that I know, which is a terrible thing. Yeah.
I don't like people in college will like say like, oh, remember that trip we took to Cancun? I don't remember it. Like I know that I took a trip, but I don't remember anything
the
from
details
it.
of it.
What? No, there's something. We need to do one of those like experts here that can unlock my brain.
Unlock our brains, yeah.
All right, we should be on.
Are we on? Hi.
Hello, my lady.
Congratulations. Congrats. I said,
Thank you.
you have
Thank you
given
for the love too, by the way.
always. I know what it's like to write a book.
The
I
real deal.
understand. It is punishing. And I know that you wrote your own book. You have no idea how many authors come on our show and they have not written their own book, where they can't even describe to you what their book is about.
The story of my life. Read it to me.
Right. Read this to me. And, so I know what it's like to write a book as you did. And I understand the terror of, because when it's done, you want to get it done because you want to get it done. But then the terror of releasing it is, it's
nightmare.
It's a nightmare. It's undescribable. It is, so you know how your publisher sent me a copy of your book because that's what publishers do. They send out, like, people in the media copies of their book. I refuse to allow my publisher to do that. And they said to me, don't you want to sell any books? Don't you want to? It's too traumatic.
Too traumatic, terrifying. You send it, somebody doesn't like it, then what? You send it, they don't want to support it, then what? First of all, Kelly, the real deal Holyfield, that's you.
Stop.
You are the real deal.
Stop. You're the real deal.
Thank you for the love. And then even thank you for talking about it on the show. Like, I don't, like, from day one, I stand 10 toes down for Kelly Ripa every single day. Day one.
It's mutual.
And day one, by the way, is not Orange Day one because
that's what we were talking about it. I was like, we go back before. Like, so explain to our podcast listeners how we know each other from before you're taking over your own stardom within the industry.
We know each other because of my sister. Family.
Yes.
We go back to family.
Family.
My sister, Chioma, Chi-Chi for short, competed in the very first high heel marathon.
Mm-hmm. She won it. She won.
And won.
And the best part of this is that she won. Mark Consuelos was like, I bet I could beat her.
Yes.
And he raced her down 67th Street.
He most certainly did.
I was there for that.
You were there for that. And then Mark was like, oh my God, am I a monster? And I go, you're not a monster if you beat you're running in sneakers and she's running in high heels. So I would say you're a loser no matter what.
Yeah. Oh my God. He did feel bad after that.
He felt bad after that. He felt bad.
It was, but that was like the most fun. I went to the original race in Central Park.
Yep.
And I was gassing my sister up the whole time, who was so nervous. I was like, you're going to win, Chi. You're going to win. And she did. And then
she sure
I
did.
was her guest when she was your guest on the show. And
So
we
crazy.
were the whole night before, like, couldn't sleep. We were so excited. We were like, we're going to be on.
We're going to be on TV. Oh my gosh. It's so wild. It is excited. so wild. I think about
and you couldn't have been more lovely to her. I just have to say, like, it's like behind, off camera, the generous gift of those shoes.
Oh yes,
yeah,
that's right. Because all of our shoes got ruined in this like high heelathon, and I think she liked a pair of shoes. She had commented that she liked a pair of shoes I had on.
Yes.
So I was able to go out and find the same pair.
So I think she even still has them.
Yeah, they're pretty timeless.
Yes, timeless. Yes, like still just like up in her, and they will never go away. And they were her first pair of like beautiful. Oh,
I'm so glad. I'm glad. That's so funny though. So it really, it's funny because I was saying, after I read your book and first of all, I sobbed. I truly sobbed, and Jan felt the same way. And Jan told me something. I read your book. Now I'm going to do what Jan did. I'm going to buy the audio version because I want to hear your voice.
So good.
I want to hear you. I want to hear, because you've done it on our show, but when you imitate your family, your Nigerian family, it's deliciousness. It like gives it a whole new dimension.
I do that on there because there's no way, I can't even help myself, to be honest with you. Like when I start talking, it just comes out of me for some reason, because I couldn't just say, if I'm talking and I'm being my mom, Uzo, go over there. It's like, that's not how she said it. She was like, Uzo, everything's drawn out. go over there. You need to really understand the emphasis that she's placing on the syllables. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I sure do. Writing a book is like giving birth. So you literally had two babies in the same year.
Yeah.
You had a baby and you had a baby. And it's like, I can't, I'm glad you had your daughter first, because when you were feeling anxious, you could go to her. And I'm sure there is a calming joy to having a new baby when you're feeling anxious about the impending release and media tour of your book. No?
Absolutely. Yeah. After she gives me her notes on the book. Yeah.
Right.
It's very calming. No, she's great. She's great. I love her so much. I never knew, obviously, what it's like to be a mom, what that feeling is. She is just, I can't even still put it into words. It's a love that I really just never knew existed, and that I even never knew that I could tap into, and it's only been 11 months. She's 11 months old, and
I always say it's astonishing is the word I use. It's astonishing love.
And I did not know, and I, like you just gave those examples, I love all of those people in my life fiercely. And until she was born, I thought I knew what doing everything for somebody else looked like. And it's like, oh no, it does not matter the size of the thing that I need to do, sacrifice, bargain, whatever. I will do it for you. And I also feel like it's wild to me how and maybe I don't know if we're supposed to say these things out loud, but if everything went away, but I still had Adeba, my daughter, I think I could figure out how to keep going through life. But if only she left and everything stayed, I don't know what the map is.
Right. You don't know how to keep going. That makes perfect sense. I think that people that have children will lock into that sentiment immediately. That's an immediate understanding to me what that feels like and what that feeling is. Do you feel like because this is tough for me to ask you this, because I know your mom passed away in 2020 very sadly, so she didn't get to meet Adeba. But do you feel her presence? Do you ever feel like she visits you both?
Oh my gosh. She lives everywhere around me. She is in that hair tie right here.
Right.
That she wore to my wedding. This is from my house. Yeah. She's everywhere around me, everywhere. That's her cap from her cap and gown when she graduated grad school. I feel her everywhere. And when I was pregnant, I think it was closer to the end of my pregnancy, I started to feel like really nervous, like traditional, probably like some of it, mommy nerves, first time mom. But then there was a part of me that started to get really nervous. Like, how am I going to do this without my mom? And I don't know how to be a mom. And this feels really unfair that my mom is not here. Like all these feelings that were coming up. And the biggest one being like, I feel like I don't know what to do, and how am I going to know what to do? And then it was really funny because one day as she started to, I don't remember what it was she was doing, but I think she was just starting to explore outside, could crawl. And my mom, when I was growing up, used to say this thing. She used to say, no, 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 with a finger wag left and right when she would say it. Uzo, no, no, no. She'd say it to all of us. And one day, I don't know, and I've never said that a day in my life, P.S. And so one day, I don't know what she was doing, but out of nowhere, all of a sudden I heard myself go, no, no, no. And I turned around and I was like,
Who said
fucking-
that?
And it was me.
Wow.
And I realized suddenly, I knew they never left us. I don't think our loved ones ever leave you. They don't leave you, but what I didn't know is that they live inside you. They live in the memories. They're inside your bones. They're in your heart. And they find their way of depositing back into your life in those moments by coming through you. And she was in the room telling my daughter, be careful with that no, no, no that day. And I suddenly felt a comfort and a peace in knowing that even though she's not physically here to show me, she had already poured into me so many lessons of understanding, had mothered me so richly that I already was ready to do it.
Right. I was just about to say that. She blueprinted for you how to be a mother all your life. So you had all of you had a full set of tools you didn't even know you had. Yeah. So take me back to your mom's origin story is, it is the classic, like everybody goes, oh, the American dream. But like, take me back to her life. She immigrates from Nigeria. She's a highly educated woman. She has 2 master's degrees. She comes to America, and I am assuming, what year did she arrive in America?
She came to America the first time. She came in 1970, 71.
Uh-huh. So I'm assuming, because I like to assume, Jan, I'm assuming she had to deal with a bunch of bullshit. And I cannot imagine that the road for her, this highly educated, accredited woman coming to America to, I'm sure, start a family, have a better life, give her future children the American dream.
Oh my gosh, she's coming out of, she's what, 5 years outside of the Civil Rights Act being enacted, coming from a country where everybody looks like her. My mother said when she came to America and when she finally understood racism, which doesn't exist there because
Right.
everybody is the same race, she said, I didn't know there was anything wrong with being Black until I came to America. I didn't know. It was just so outside of her sight. And she couldn't even conceive of this idea that because of the color of her skin, that people would determine her ability or lack thereof of something. And, she had told us this story where she was applying for a teaching position at a school, and she showed up and she went to where she was meant to have her scheduled interview, right? And the secretary just on site sees her and tells her that they're seeing people in the back. And she goes to the back, and my mother's dressed very professionally, office setting dress. And she's sitting in a room with a bunch of maids and custodial workers, proud line of work. And the people are coming through in and out. And she's goes back to ask, I have an appointment. And the woman's like, they'll see you when, they'll call your name. They see you. No one ever calls her name. She's waiting. She's the last person there. Finally, somebody comes out and they're like, what are you here for? And she says, I'm here for the teaching position, to interview for the teaching position. They tell her to go up front. She sees the same secretary. She says, look, you've had me waiting in the back. I'm here for the teaching interview. My time has passed. The woman's eyes got wide as saucers. She went in to go get the principal. The principal mumbles, some apology and is totally embarrassed.
Right.
And she goes in and she left. And at that time, my mother had not yet really experienced racism to even understand it.
Right.
It wasn't until later because
She
was
just
so
assumed
confused.
that she had to go back there to wait her turn to be interviewed for the teaching position.
For the teaching
Right.
position, not that she had sent her to the custodial.
Because she just made an assumption.
They made assumption,
Right.
just didn't disregarded her presentation, disregarded her CV in her hand, disregarded everything about her, and what she was even saying, down to what she was saying. And she left that day so confused how this woman could even mistake her for anything other than a teacher.
Right.
And she said later, she was like, it wasn't until years later that I realized that was racism. I was so mad. I wanted to go back to that school and just bash that woman,
Yeah, of course, because I'm thinking about your mom, and it's like, when you go to one of these national parks, and the waters run over the rocks, right? And it starts to chip away and wear away at the rocks. And I'm wondering how many of those instances, like she lands in America and suddenly it's like a geyser of water flowing over this rock of a woman. And it's got to start eating away at her at some point. I'm wondering, like, did she start to hate the people around her? Did she ever have resentment? Or was it just like total confusion and like, what is wrong with these white people?
My mom, the beautiful thing about my mom, one of the things that I love most about her is she has such an incredibly forgiving heart. Sometimes to a fault, frankly, but she always kept an optimistic, and she loved her positive. You have to keep, she write in her journals, you have to keep it, and tell us, you have to keep a positive attitude, optimistic spirit. And it angered her, absolutely, without question. Let's be clear. My mom was a tough lady. When she understood what was happening, yes, when she could spot it and see it, she called it out.
She'd call it out. Right.
She'd call it out, but she never let it get into her bones to turn her into what society's idea of her was, because she thought it was so simplistic, frankly, that line of thinking, that she almost felt bad for that person to having such a small line of sight that they couldn't see actually how beautiful and colorful the world was.
That's a primitive way of thinking. You guys moved to like Medfield, Massachusetts, right?
Yep.
White neighborhood.
Yep.
Your parents have 5 kids. And tell me, what is that like?
It's wild. We had 5 kids in a 7 people altogether, 3-bedroom house, a humble little home, but it was ours and we were proud of it. And my parents moved there because my dad had gotten a job in Massachusetts. They wanted a sort of quiet community, safe community grow up. And because private school just wasn't an option, we didn't have the money for it, but education was king in our house. And so they looked for an area that had the best public school in Massachusetts, which was Medfield, Massachusetts. And so they moved there. A bit of their naivete, having not been brought up in America in a racist country, was not, I think, really fully understanding the scope of what that might mean or what that could possibly create for their children to intersect with, the atmospheres. It was
do you
tough.
think that their naivete at a certain, like, to a certain degree, was almost like a superpower? Because I think that it could have been potentially terrifying for them to go in with the institutional knowledge that these places are racist. Like, I hate to say ignorance is bliss, but it can be, like, it can allow you the freedom to actually get that house and move into that neighborhood.
And you're exactly right. It's exactly that. It's like that naivete. First of all, their persistence and their insistence to ensure that their children receive the best without, qualifying it in terms of well, this is the best that we can find under these circumstances. Like, this is the best, and my kids deserve that. And that's what we're going to supply them with. Definitely, it was born out of that, and that they just were operating like they would have operated were they living back in Nigeria, that this is what you're going to experience, all of the allowances, all of the opportunities that this country can provide you, that this town can provide you. And they moved with that sort of insistence. Now, I think they were also great at learning pretty quick. So when they saw challenges, my mom would nip that thing in the bud. She was not, this woman did not, she did not like recess because she doesn't like to play. You understand?
Right.
Like, this is my mom.
Right.
That was
Right.
my mom. She does not play. Like, she would just handle anything or anybody who was trying to do anything to interrupt our ability to dream and reach for the highest ring that there was possible.
Tell our listeners about when your brother was bullied and how your mom handled that. Tell our listeners about when your brother was bullied and how your mom handled that.
Yeah, so my brother, he's my eldest sibling. He was, I think of him now really like a pioneer. He was the trailblazer. He took a lot of hits moving into that town. And there
First
were
child is the first pancake, first one on the griddle. They have to experience everything first.
Is it too hot? Do we need more butter? Do we turn it down?
Right.
Yeah. So there were these kids in our neighborhood who were bullying him incessantly, saying horrible things to him at the bus stop, throwing away his food, beating him up. And he, asked my mom, who had instilled in all of us that you're not to fight back. And he said, Mommy, all these kids are beating me up. They're calling me monkey African booty scratcher, a monkey, go back to Africa, all these terrible things, beating me up. And you tell me I can't fight back. So my mom said, the next time they hit you first, I want you to just so bash them. As luck would have it, that happened in our house. They came over to pretend to play soccer with him. My mom happened to be home for a weekend. They kick my brother's soccer ball over the tracks that are train tracks that are running behind our house. And they start beating up my brother, this one boy. My brother just walloped him, right? Gives him a black eye. My parents go around to all the houses, tell the parents how they've been bullying their son, how they've been beating him up. And if things of this type happen again, they're going to go involve the police moving forward. The parents are seemingly apologetic, right?
Okay.
So my brother and this little boy go to school. The little boy is in school. The teacher asks, what happened to your eye? He says, Ricky hit me. Without a question to my brother, sends my brother to the principal's office saying that my brother had hit him. Doesn't ask why, doesn't ask when, nothing, not a question. On the spot, the principal suspends my brother, calls my mom, who's at work, and says, you need to come and pick up your son. Your son's been suspended for hitting so-and-so, giving him a black eye. My mother, who knows this whole story, right, is on the phone. She said, did you ask my son what happened? And the principal said, no. She said, okay, I'll be right there. She calls my father, tells him he must.
I want to be in the car with your mom and your dad.
Calls my father, tells him he needs to come to the school right now. They descend from Boston onto Medfield, our school, the school. She's in the office, and my mom has this way of asking questions where she already knows the answer, but she kind of is trying to just gauge the level.
She's setting a trap. What she's doing is setting a trap.
That's right. Exactly.
Right. Yes.
I want to make sure I'm clear on all the facts that I already know, and maybe perhaps your level of stupidity. And so she says, so you sent my son down here to suspend him for hitting this boy's eye. Did you ask him what happened? Said no. Said, did the teacher ask him? Said no. Said, ah. So what if I told you that this boy has been harassing my son and has been beating him up, and that I in fact saw him strike my son, and it was my son who was defending himself, which is why this boy has this black eye. What would you say then? And the principal was like, I didn't know. He's like, this is what will happen. He's like, oh, he's not suspended now. He's like, this is what will happen. Let me tell you something. If ever I have to come back to this school for something like this, I will sue you. I will sue this teacher. I will sue this school. I will sue this town. This school will go from being called the T.A. Blake School to the Uzo Aduba School. and that was it. That was it.
She is my hero.
Yeah.
It's like a lesson in how to handle a bully. A lesson. Unbelievable.
But my mom was so insistent in that way. She's a fighter. That lady was a spunky, strong woman that I love so much and admire. And was just, she'd say all the things. She's like, I love people, but don't step on my toes.
Right.
Don't step on my, don't step on my toes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want you to explain to our listeners, if you can, like when you grow up, you go to school, you're excelling at everything. Because if you don't follow Uzo on social media, you're missing out. I think I know everything about her, and then she'll just like randomly post a video of her figure skating, like expertly, like from she's like Throwback Thursday. I'm like, that's your Throwback Thursday? Like my Throwback Thursdays suck. No. Oh, this is when I was competing in the Junior Olympics. I'm like, what? Massive. So I'm like picturing you in Massachusetts with your siblings. You're at this school. You're like one of the only Black families in town. Like, and you talk about code switching, but I want to hear how you code switch.
Code switching is adjusting to the environment in which you are in, typically because of culture being, in this case, it can be like being Nigerian, it could be Black culture, it could be white culture, urban culture versus suburban culture, to communicate your thoughts and be heard, to be understood, to be considered, to be accepted in some cases, and that constant pivoting so that you can maneuver through a variety of different spaces. And it's not that you're like not yourself. You are always yourself.
No, but you're assimilating more to your circumstance.
To the circumstance,
right.
That's it.
That makes sense to me.
But I bet you that's like part of what makes you a great actor.
Yeah, I bet that does. Does make you a great actor. Like you had to start at an early age, sort of like maybe putting on not different identities, but adjusting to different scenarios. Am I accurate?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And sometimes it's also like you realize you can realize in a matter of seconds, like, oh, this is not being understood. This is not being accepted. Part of that is when you're a kid, you want to be liked so bad, and part of it is also like, okay, I want to be liked and I want to be understood. And sometimes it's also built out of experiencing rejection. I was brought up in this all white, predominantly white community. And I remember going to a track meet that I was so excited about. And I was really excited about one because it was, a high stakes meet, but I was also really excited because I knew there were going to be a lot of Black girls there. And I, at that point, could feel the emptiness in my day-to-day experience of that. And I remember going and just talking like myself and the culture and environment in which I grew, and very quickly feeling that rejection from the community, because I did not have what I call in the book my Black card, my African American Express. I had my black card. I know I'm black. I'm clear I'm black. I'm not confused about that, nor do I want to be anything other than that. But I'm clear that the way I'm speaking in this community here, it was not accepted. It was not acceptable. And trying to shift gears into being accepted also didn't work in that experience. And I think what starts to happen, at least what happened for me as I got older, through experiences with friends that I made in track, that I made in school with people and school being college at that point, with different groups, I realized oh, actually, I can just be myself. It's not my job to try and shift every single time in every single room for someone else's comfort. My job is to be exactly me. And some people shift for me for a change, if we're gonna start making shifts,
Yeah.
or why don't we all come in here
Well, that
together?
has to be exhausting. I mean, going to school is hard enough, right? And
Yes.
trying to fit in is hard enough. And thinking about having to, shift your personality based on who you're talking to, and the fear of because there has to be fear behind that if I don't do this right, if I don't pull this off right, there will be rejection. That's what will happen.
100%. And there's consequences even growing up in my town on the reverse side, there's that element of, we've talked about in culture recently about what it means to be like a model immigrant. There was this idea of having to exist with a level of perfection and without bringing any sort of stain to our town. And my siblings and I often felt that our performance in sports was creating space for us to be heard and seen and accepted, but we also understood and felt like it was a very thin line we were dancing on, that we had to really display ourselves in a way that was acceptable,
Mm-hmm.
thought to be acceptable, or a lot of those privileges could be rescinded. And I think there's no room for error. And I think there's for me, I felt like, and I know some of my siblings felt this way too, such a tremendous sacrifice has been made. These people left their families behind. They left their parents, their lives, their livelihoods behind for you.
Mark's mom and his grandmother, they would send audio tapes back and forth to each other. So, so I was wondering, did your mom communicate with her family in any way like that?
They not on audio tape, but I wish. That's so beautiful. I wish. No, we didn't have that. My mom and my grandparents wrote letters, which I do have one here that my mom had saved from her mother. And every once in a blue moon, there would be a call, but it's not like cell phones today where you can just call. I know when we went to Nigeria, I went to Nigeria and I saw the first time I went was in third grade. I went and I saw my grandmother there, and we have I don't know where it is, I don't know who has it, but there is a videotape of that visit. And I know the light went out for some reason, the battery and the light died, so it's just audio at one point of my grandmother speaking, and she actually wound up passing away the very next day after that. So, and my mom loved that, and I had kept this journal when I was on my trip. She had given me one to keep, and I kept an account of the whole visit and that visit with my grandmother. And my mother held on to that. She had this little nightstand next to her bed, and it was in this green folder, and she kept it in that nightstand for as long as I can remember, because it was the last account of her mother.
Wow.
And she had held on to that forever.
You know, uh, pivoting away a little bit, like flashing forward in your book, I was floored by this story of you being stopped by the police. I was floored by this story of you being stopped by the police. Can you tell our listeners about this story?
Yeah, so this was in New York City in the late aughts, and I had just gone to do the nerdiest thing ever, a night of Shakespeare monologue, fancy
Right.
free
Uh-huh.
in these streets,
Right.
a night of working on Shakespeare monologues with a girlfriend of mine from college. And I was walking back to my apartment. She lived, for all of our New York listeners, she lived in Astoria. And I was walking back to my neighborhood and a few blocks away in Sunnyside. And I remember I was walking down this really big, high street called Steinway Street, and an unmarked car had done a quick U-turn, screech, and it's late. It's like 11, and zoomed past me. And I remember seeing the unmarked car and the gentleman in the white shirt looking at me as he was driving by. And I thought, oh, that's weird, not thinking anything of it. And I kept walking, and I'm about a block from my house. I'm wearing a red t-shirt that says Switzerland on the front, and a backpack, yellow backpack that says Jamaica on the back.
Okay.
And all
Represent.
yes, all the cultures coming together,
Right.
all the codes coming together. And all of a sudden, I hear freeze from behind me. I turn around, and I see these two men running at me in football jerseys. And I started to turn to run because honestly, I thought I was about to be raped. I thought I was getting
Right, of course. These are serial killers. This is it.
Yes.
This is the last moment of my life.
Correct.
And what a weird thing to say, freeze.
In the middle of the night,
Right.
plainclothed men that I do not know tearing at me, and I'm walking, and I know I've done nothing wrong, so I'm so blown away. And I just remember turning to start running, and right as I started to run, I heard distantly police, and I said, did he say police? And I turned back around, and by the time I turned back around, they were right up on me. And they were like, identification. And it was like fast. I remember it was just all so fast and so quick. And I was so confused. And I said, what do you mean ID? What do you need my identification for? They said, somebody made a report about somebody vandalizing in the area that fits your description. And at this point, my head's starting to settle. And I said, somebody called the police saying that I fit the description of somebody vandalizing? They said, yes. I said, there's somebody out here on the street wearing
Right.
a red shirt that says Switzerland and a yellow backpack.
Right.
Jamaica.
Vandalizing on the street.
This exact outfit, right?
with a Shakespeare monologue in their hand.
The complete works of Shakespeare. Exactly. And right as we're having this exchange, that same car that I had seen earlier pulls up with that man. And I said, I just saw that guy like 20 minutes ago. And I thought, you've been following me. And what would make you follow me? Why are you following me? And what are you doing? And they were still.
What is it about me specifically? What could it be?
Could it be? And I remember, and later thinking to myself, this is that feeling of my mom. Just what could you possibly? But you had decided somewhere along the way, without knowing me, without even giving me proper examination, that I was up to no good, that I was trouble. And he said, ID. I said, well, let me see your ID. I don't even know if you're the police. He pulls out this badge that looks like he could have bought it at Party City for all I know.
Of course, I'm telling you, my first thought was like, these are serial killers.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to get you to go in. Do not go in the car.
Do not go in. Terrified.
Never go in the car.
Never get in. Yes. Terrified. I told them, I said, this is what I'm not showing you my ID. I don't know that you're police dressed in your plain clothes. They couldn't believe it. I said, I didn't want to get my phone. I said, this is what we're going to do. I am going to flag down a car and they will call the police. And then we'll all know if this is real or not real. And thankfully, a gentleman stopped, and he appeared to be of North African, Middle Eastern descent. And I asked him, and he could see, I remember he could feel, it felt like the fear in my eyes. And I felt like we had a silent conversation, he and I, when I said that told him, I
I'm
said, I'm
sure he
scared.
was no stranger to that situation.
Correct. And he called the police, and a cruiser came and verified that they were, in fact, the police. And I just knew that I wasn't going to lay down in that way to this type of bigoted profiling behavior. I have always held in my mind when people have conversations about, well, why did they run or this or that? I always am reminded that I know what I was about to, because, and I didn't,
Of
the
course, that would have
confusion.
scared the shit out of
Correct.
anyone. I would have run. I mean, I would never stop.
No.
Plainclothes people running freeze and a car pulls up?
And a
No
carpool that
way.
goes against everything you've been taught in my small
Yeah,
town.
of
I'm going to be,
course.
like you said, I've been kidnapped. I'm about to be raped. I'm about to be trafficked. I don't know what's about to happen, but I know I know I didn't do anything wrong. So
100%. Yeah. Most people, I think, identify you, of course, as Crazy Eyes in Orange is the New Black, for which you've won 2 Emmy Awards. But you were working at it a long time. Like, you were not just an overnight success. You didn't just come out of thin air. Take us through, like, the moment that you finally break through. I'm assuming you read this script and you know, like, this is going to change my life.
I did not
No.
know. I did not. I knew because I was coming on to do 2 episodes, possibly 3. When I got that job, it was 2 episodes, possibly 3. I had never booked at that time anything on film or television. I'd been waiting tables, working, the grind when you're starting, like I was doing all of this to keep my head afloat, to chase the dream, and had been going at it for a long time. And then I got this, I was ready to quit the day I got that job. And so when the opportunity came, I just knew I was going to do 2 episodes, maybe 3. And I was over the moon about it, jumping for
Right.
joy. And
SAG
so
card money, like
all
just
of
everything. Like
all,
suddenly you could like breathe. You could breathe.
yeah, I could breathe for a minute, and I was ready to do that job and go back to find the next job. And then I remember walking to my dressing room after the second episode with a producer, and she said, "Okay, great. We'll see you on the next one." And all I thought, I sincerely mean this, all I thought was, "Oh, I'm going to get to do that 3rd episode." And I was stoked about that. This is the 3rd episode. This is awesome. I'm going to be in 3 episodes of TV. Could you imagine? I can't even believe this. This is wild. I had no idea that they were keeping me on for the rest of the year. I had and I, it sounds wild now, but I really do mean it. No part of me ever even thought about what the show was going to be, what this character was going to be. I certainly did not imagine any of the rest that came. That just wasn't even in my sight.
So because you were so focused on, oh my God, thank God I got a job. Thank God I'm going to be able to make my rent. Thank God I'm going to be able to fund like my SAG account, like whatever, all of that stuff. You never even allowed yourself to fantasize about what comes next. What if this show is a hit? What if it becomes a zeitgeisty juggernaut show? And so now I'm going to flash forward again. You win the Emmy. Take me through the moment that they first call your name for that first Emmy.
It's wild. I'm truly trying to figure out, how did I get here the whole time? How did this happen? My mom sitting next to me, my older sister sitting behind me. I can still see Morgan Freeman up there. I'm looking at him like, that's the voice of God. This is so wild, like, and I can still hear him saying my name, Uzo Aduba. He said it just like that. And I can see in my head, my mom in her blue traditional Nigerian clothes doing her applause like this big, fully armed, extended. And she said, my Uzo. That's what she said. She said, my Uzo.
Gosh.
I could hear her saying that and just blown away, Kelly. And I was just getting up and I remember walking up the steps, and for some reason, as I'm looking at Morgan Freeman, his resume is going through my mind because I love Morgan Freeman so much.
Yeah, of course. Everybody loves Morgan Freeman.
Yes. I'm thinking of like Driving Miss Daisy, Shawshank Redemption, Bruce Almighty,
all
$1 million baby.
flashing.
Is the man I am going to meet Morgan Freeman. And he has an Emmy. And
he's going to give it, and he's going to hand it to me.
He's going to hand it to me. And this is on TV. And my friend had told me, a girlfriend of mine had said that I should prepare something. I didn't. And I was like wondering what I was going to say.
It feels like you're jinxing it almost, like to prepare a speech. Like, I can't do that because if I prepare something, then I definitely won't. I don't want to even entertain the idea.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And just pure joy. And I think of that moment. I think of one other moment. It was 2 weeks before that. We had the privilege of going to the White House during the Obama administration, my mom and I. And when I think about that moment, meeting the Obamas, when I think about standing on that stage and I'm looking at my mom in those moments and thinking, this woman from Obusi, a village in Anambra State in the country of Nigeria, her dream for her children came true.
And it is the American dream. I mean, this book, I think, should be in classrooms. I feel like it is a must read in classrooms. Right now, at this time where we're living, people are forgetting what America is about. And your mom coming here is what America is about. My husband coming here is what America is about. All of our families and their journeys here it's the entire purpose of our country, and I just think it should be required reading. I just think it's such a beautiful tribute.
You're getting me, Kelly Ripa.
It's true. No, it's true. It really is. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous tribute. And I'm so grateful to you for writing it, because I know that had to be a lot. I think it was very painful for you to go back and remember and to have her journals and to work from them and to tell her story and your story. But I think it's so important for your own daughter, because your mom and you and everything your mom taught you and everything you will teach her will live on through her. And when you see her realize her dreams, you are going to really be able to say to your mom, Mommy, look at what we did. Look at what we did. Quickly before we go, because I know we have limited time, will you do us a favor and play a little rapid fire with us?
Yes.
First paying job.
First paying job, I was a badge checker at the swim pond in my hometown.
Amazing. Childhood celebrity crush.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas. And before that, Brandon Adams, if you know.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. You're so much younger than us. First kiss.
I'm only laughing because Barrett, my friend Barrett Vaughn, who's on Frankie, was on what was that, Frankie and Grace?
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. That's amazing. That was your first kiss?
Not on the show. He's my classmate from in life.
Wow. In real life. That's amazing.
I was
What do
like,
you-
I was like, do I say that? Because that's a public
Yes,
person
you
too.
say it.
But I was like, oh,
No, you have
there
to
you go.
say it. That's
It's like,
incredible.
Baron.
That's a great first kiss.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
still
Way
friends.
better than yours or mine, Albert. That's
Okay.
for sure. What's the best advice you've ever gotten? I'm assuming it's from your mom.
Yes, and it's right here. Best advice I've ever been given, hands down, came from my mother. Uzo, just work hard. I've never heard of nothing coming from hard work.
Ah, that's
Oof.
so good.
Wow.
Albert,
I know.
why don't you get me a plaque
gonna
with
get
good
you a
advice on it?
I'll take a screen grab of hers and I'll make a plaque for you.
Okay, if you were a drag performer, what would your drag name be? Now remember, it's the name of the first pet you owned and the street you grew up on.
Wisdom Colonial.
Oh, wisdom.
Wow.
That's a good
That
one.
is a
That's a good
great.
one.
That rivals Chris Christie's.
Please,
Yeah.
please welcome. Oh yeah, Chris Christie's drag
What was
name
his-
was Nana Cobbler. Nana
Nana
Cobbler. Nana Cobbler. Nana Cobbler.
That is
Isn't that
excellent.
amazing?
Yes.
How do you remember that? That's
Nana
a good
It's a good one. If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say?
You are enough, just as you are.
That's a good one. That's a true one. You are enough. I mean, you are more than enough. You are something else. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope you come back and talk to us again. This was great.
Absolutely. I love you. You're the best in the business.
I love you so much. Kiss your baby for me. Give her 1,000 kisses.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, Uzo.
Bye.
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 Well, Albert, I feel like you should sign us off today.
Really? Don't forget to check out The Road is Good, How a Mother's Strength Became a Daughter's Purpose, wherever books are sold.
Bye,
Oh,
everyone.
bye, everybody. Can't wait to talk off camera next week.
Yes.
Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions with help from Goat Rodeo. Our theme song is Follow Me from APM Music. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Chalet, Devin Schneider, Michael Halpern, Jacob Small, Roz Therian, Seth Gronquist, and Julia Desch. From Goat Rodeo, our team is Kara Schillen, Megan Nadolski, Max Johnston, Isabel Kirby McGowan, and Rebecca Seidel. Additional sound design by Terrence Bernardo. This show is powered by Stitcher.